Hi everyone, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. Today I am going to show you how to make this side step card fold. I had this on my blog about 2 weeks ago and I received lots of emails begging me to show you how to make this. And I'm not sure if it's because of the card fold or because of how the way that I layered all my framelit shapes here and the multiple layers of mountains or hills that you see here. And this does fold flat for mailing. So I'm going to show you what we need first, and then I'm going to show you how to put it together. For ink colors, I used Crushed Curry, Bermuda Bay, and Crumb Cake. For stamp sets, I'm using Always an Adventure. It's got this cute little camping theme going. These come with the coordinating framelits that are on page 193 of the catalog. And you'll see them right here, the Outdoor Adventure. And I'll show you which ones I'm going to use in a minute. The second stamp set I'm going to use is the Sweet Sayings. And I'm using My Heart Smiles Just Thinking of You. For the framelits, what I've done since we're focusing on the card fold is I've stamped ahead of time just to save time. So this is the Tags and Labels framelit set. And I stamped my sentiment with Crumb Cake ink and cut it out. And I also stamped the little bear and the tent on Whisper White. The bear is Crumb Cake. The tent is Crushed Curry. And these are the little die shapes that actually cut these out. Really neat. And for the step portion of the card, you're going to need 2 of the dies. This one has the 4 trees on it, and then this is the one with the mountains. So I'm going to show you how to do that. For the stamp images, since I've already done those, we're also going to use the little the water. It's either a lake or a pond, whatever you want to call it, along with the little cloud. So let me show you what we're going to need for cardstock. The card base is Bermuda Bay, which measures 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm going to be showing you how to cut and score that. Crumb Cake, you're going to need 7 pieces measuring 4 inches by 2 inches. Whisper White, 2 1/8 by 4 inches, and then 2 more pieces of Bermuda Bay measuring 4 inches by 2.5 inch. What I've done, I'm going to try to take a picture of this and hopefully be able to include it at the end of my video. I'll try to post a link maybe to go to it so you can print it. But these are all the score lines we're going to create, and you're going to have one cut line. So I'll show you how to do that. You will need your scoring tool or scoring board and an X-Acto knife. So let's get going on cutting and scoring the card base. So I'm going to bring in my score tool, and I'm also going to use a ruler because what I want to do is place this. Let me put the pattern here so you can see. We have to leave 2.5 inches right here. So I'm going to measure back 2.5, so that brings me to 3 inches. And I'm going to make a tick mark at 1 and a tick mark at 6 3/8. You can see the 1 right here and the 6 3/8 below here. Now I want to measure this so it's 3 inches away. That one's good, and that one's good. So I'm going to bring my ruler in and connect the 2 dots. And because my Simply Scored has grooves in it, I'm going to cut from dot to dot right in the groove. If you don't have the Simply Scored, just make sure you have a cutting mat. Okay, so my there's my cut lines, and that's all you need to do. I do have a little bit of fuzzy there, so I'm going to bring in my sanding block just to take the fuzzies out of the way. Okay, now I'm going to turn it this way. I'm actually going to flip it over. And the score lines that we need are 1, and you're going to score only up to the cut line. So 1, 2, 3 1/8, 4 1/4. Now the 4 1/4 line, as you can see on here, goes all the way across because that's where your card's going to fold in half. So this one you can go all the way across, and the last one is at 6 3/8. So again, 1, 2, 3 1/8, 4 1/4, and 6 3/8. And that's all you need to do for cutting and scoring. Now I'm going to show you how to fold it. Okay, this one goes all the way across, so you can go ahead and fold that in half. Actually, I need to go this way. I had it upside down. The 3 score lines should be in the front, facing the front. Now you're going to take the first fold, fold it this way. So you're going to do mountain fold, valley fold, mountain fold, valley fold, mountain fold. And then you just take your bone folder and press on all of the score lines. And this is what your card should look like. So again, the 4 1/4 at the center is actually being folded in opposite directions. So this one you pinch upward, this one you pinch downward, and then you create your steps. I hope that makes sense. So now let's get all our pieces cut to add to the step sides. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my big shot, and I've gone ahead and cut some of these already. And the reason I made them 4 inches long is because I want to be able to move them around, and then I'm going to turn around and trim what I don't need. It just gives you a little bit of moving space. And the same thing with the mountains. Once we have our multi-layered mountains built, I'm going to glue it in place and then turn this over and trim the excess that I don't need. So I've got one of each left to cut. And the way I measured this, I want my trees to be at the top so I can have room to play with down here. And the same thing with the mountains. And as you can see, they do overlap on each side so that they will cut right off. So let me roll this through. Roll it back through. I always go forward and backward. Just seems to cut better. Okay, so there's my tree. So you should have 2 of these. And then your little mountain range, you should have 7. So let me move the big shot aside. So now I'm going to bring in my 2 tree pieces. And if you'll notice on the card, I only have 3 on each layer. I thought it was, or actually on the front layer, I just thought it was too busy to have the 4th tree standing in front. So I did go ahead and snip one of the trees off. So that's going to be my front portion. So I'm going to go ahead and add glue. And I'm going to position this just so that my step is covered. And there's only going to be a little bit of trimming. So you just need to trim the 2 sides. So what I did is I made sure this was even over here. Okay, so there's your first layer, your first step. And then we're going to bring in the tent and the bear. And I did add stamping dimensionals to the back. So let's put our little tent in place first. And then the little bear. So as you can see, that's the first part. Now for the second step, I didn't want my trees to line up the same exact way I had them there. So I'm actually going to flip this over to the other side. And we'll add glue to this step. And I'm looking at my card right now, and it's kind of funny because I flipped the first layer the first time, but that's okay. It still works. Whoops. Okay, so there's your two steps, which are the 2 layers of trees. Now we're going to work on the mountain range. So we're going to bring in all of our pieces. You may not need 7 pieces when you're done. You'll know more as you get going. So I'm adding my glue to the top of the mountain range. And then I'm just going to move this over slightly, just to create the layers. And I'm going to keep doing that. So let's move this one a little bit further that way. So that's number 3. Now we're adding number 4. This is piece number 5. And these might not turn out the same each time. So like I said, you may not even need to use all 7 pieces. I think I'm going to flip this one over. So now I have 6. Let's see where we are when we add this, because what I'm trying to do is cover all of the Bermuda Bay, which I did. So I'm just going to use 6 on this one. So I'm going to bring in some scissors and just cut a straight line across. Fit this in its place. And as you can see, you don't see any Bermuda Bay in the background, so you know you've got it all covered. So now we're going to add glue to this last portion. Press this in place. Then flip it over, and we're just going to trim the side right here. This is a little thick, so you're going to need some heavy-duty scissors to cut through all these layers. So there, I have one left over that I can use for another project. So now we have our trees. I think I have glue on the back of something. Oh, I know what I did. I added a dimensional a little too high, so I'll have to bring that down. That's why it's sticking. So those are your 2 steps with the trees and your steps. Your step with the mountain range. Now all we have left to do is to decorate the stamped portion. And before I forget to fix this, I'm going to just bring in a little piece of Whisper White and tuck it behind the dimensional. That way it won't stick. There. Now we can fold these without them sticking to each other. Okay, now let's get the stamped layer going. We're going to bring in the clouds and the little lake image. Now what I did on my card, I didn't want this to be overpowering, so what I did is I inked my stamp. I stamped on scrap first, and then I stamped on my cardstock piece. That way it won't be so dark and overpowering. And now we're just going to add some clouds. And I know my sentiment's going to go in the center, so you don't really need to do anything there. Okay. And now all we need to do is glue the sentiment in place, and I am using Stampin' Dimensionals. Stick that right there. And then we add snail to the back. And we'll glue that to the card base. Okay, so there's my card, and here's the first one that I did. And again, I'll have the pattern so you can print it and use as a guide. And I'll also list all the products that I used today. I hope you enjoyed my card. They're really not as hard as they look, and I hope you have some fun with it. Thanks for stopping by.